What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. I've got my Scream t-shirt on for this. Justice for Scream. Should have been nominated. You know, I got that. Hello, Sydney. What's your favorite scary movie? The Substance. Is it gonna get nominated? I heard Demi Moore is really good in it. Well, actually, I think it's really gonna be tough to get that in the Oscars. Wait a minute, are we in enough? This is a review of The Substance. I finally saw this movie. Yes, I think Scream probably could have earned a screenplay nomination back in the day. It's funny to think about how we're at this place now where a film like The Substance is being pushed so heavily, and it's looking like it's actually going to be accepted. Like, I think we'll talk about it. Anyway, I've seen this now, and I watched it with audio description. It technically was made available for but it was like, I watch a lot of screeners without audio description. I was like, there's no point in watching this without audio description. I know what I'm getting myself into. I've heard people talk about this movie, so I rented it with audio description. So thanks, Mubi, for giving me a screener that doesn't have audio description. It was a waste of time, but I rented the damn thing anyway. So I could have the full experience. Oh my God, of The Substance. First of all, we have a clear frontrunner for best audio description track of 2024. Like, this is like leagues. There's so much stuff to describe here. I don't even know. I don't even know how to make a list beyond it. Like, I'm thinking about some of the other tracks I've liked this year, and I'm like, nothing. There's so much that The Substance does that. I mean, it's not all gore either. Like, there's a lot that it has to catch up on, and it's beneficial because there really is not a lot of dialogue. It's so weird. This is a screenplay, like, winner from Cannes, because that means that it's just like conceptually, like, you like the scenes, you like the way that they're built. Because these characters don't talk a lot. It's amazing what Carly Farjat has done here in directing, which is why I really hope she gets a nomination for director. It's a bold statement. I have seen her previous work, Revenge, the film where the girl gets left out and then she goes back and seeks and gets vengeance. I've seen that many years ago. I barely remembered it until I saw another critic like talk about that movie in a review. I was like, oh, that's what that movie is. I've seen that. So I didn't realize that I actually had seen Corley's previous movie. I just assumed probably not, but no, I have. And I remember seeing that film and being like, well, that film had some moments that were a little intense. Nothing compared to what The Substance does in terms of Jesus, the gore. Jesus. So this film stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. Three people, two of whom who are being talked about for nominations, but honestly, all three of them should be talked about for nominations. I just think Dennis Quaid is just, they're taking it too much for granted. But Dennis Quaid is really, I think he understands exactly what this role is, and he's doing excellent work with it. And I would not be mad at all if The Substance overperformed and caused him to get a nomination. I would not be mad at all. It would be like a lark. It would be one of those nominations you just sort of giggle at, like, you don't think it's going to happen, and then it happens, and you're like, oh my God, they actually nominated that. And I think there's a chance that Hollywood could. Like, I wouldn't say he's completely out. I think people have underestimated a little bit. It's like, if you're predicting The Substance across all categories, why are you not looking at Dennis Quaid? I mean, considering what Corley is clearly trying to do with this character, and the fact that he's playing a character named Harvey, I would say he really sort of nailed his performance. So, but obviously this is the Demi Moore show. This is the whole reason we're talking about the movie, is how good she is in this. Listen, I've always been a fan of Demi. And the fact that she's at this point in her life and she still hasn't had an Oscar nomination. And this is what happens This is why we don't have nice things, is because we don't want to have the difficult conversation with Oscar voters of vote for people when they deserve. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop just picking your Oscar favorites. Stop nominating the same person 10, 12, 14 times. Stop nominating them every time they breathe. Yes, they're excellent actors. Is that their best performance? Is this really one of the best performances? Is this performance going to be remembered in 25, 30, 45, 50 years, you know? So nobody ever asks those questions. They just allow them, like campaigns, to just get washed over them. There's something about Demi Moore's performance in The Substance that feels both like it's overdue and also, yes, it checks all of those boxes as this will be remembered as her performance. This will be remembered as the right performance. All of those things. But it feels very much like an answer to a system that has forgotten her. It's interesting that she plays an Oscar, I believe, winner. She's at least a nominee. I can't remember if they said winner or not in the movie, but she's at least a nominee, if not a winner. And she's a little bit of a Jane Fonda figure, except Jane Fonda's career lasted beyond 50. Basically, what happens to Demi in this is she hits 50 and on her birthday gets fired by Harvey for not being hot anymore. She turned 50, which is a gross age to him. And he's like, honestly, I don't know how she's made it this far, you know, like, but basic, total illegal ageism. But so she has to contemplate with that, and it really sort of sets her on this like spiral of you know, when your whole career is based around your beauty, what's next? What's the next stage? And I think it's really important to talk about the fact that, you know, we've had actors and actresses that have been around, that have popped, and have been younger, and they've aged, and they haven't been able to translate that into their older part of the career, Oscar nomination or not. They've even given her character the Oscar nomination here, but yet there are actors and actresses who got an Oscar nomination and their career still, or won, and their career just kind of still petered out. And they're, you know, maybe they occasionally act every once in a while, but they're certainly a shadow of what they once were, the roles that they're being offered. So, and you could say that about a host of actresses, even ones that weren't necessarily known for being hot, but they were young at the time. Like, they weren't necessarily naked on the cover of magazines while pregnant hot, you know, like Demi was. So I'm not surprised here that this performance exposes Demi as much as she is, or that she was so unafraid to take this performance, which really just like pulls everything back for her. It really just shows us like all of Demi, like raw Demi. And what I love about how this film is shaped is the fact that she does so little with so much with so little dialogue. She has, like, she doesn't sit there and give you these long ass fucking monologues about her feelings. Everything is about her staring at herself in a mirror, you know, or staring at something that reminds her of something, and her reaction to it. It's very, which is why the audio description is so integral here. My favorite scene in the movie, fuck the gore, is, I'm sorry, but my favorite scene is there's a scene where she's thinking about going out on a date, but she's so insecure with herself that she keeps going back and changing the amount of makeup and changing her makeup. And you keep seeing the time is pushing closer and closer to when she's supposed to be at the date. And eventually she just says, fuck it. You know, she's put too much shit on her face and she's just like tearing it off. She's trying to get all the makeup off her face, and she's frustrated and angry at herself. And I think that's her Oscar scene. And there isn't an ounce of dialogue in it. Not an ounce of dialogue in that scene. And it's one of the best scenes of the year from anyone. Is that moment, is just the way that it's portrayed. And it's virtually gore-free, also, by the way. But the film, the film sadly is not. The film catches her in sort of a dark moment as a character. And she's presented with the opportunity for this thing called the substance, which is she's given like a flash drive and it's got this thing on it and she can call this number and she can get the kit and it's explained to her and basically she takes a shot and it creates this there's a nurse that looks at her back and realizes that she's a good candidate for this, and it'll create a younger version of herself, and they have to maintain the balance. They are still one, they're both the same person, but the younger person has to do 7 days and then the older version has to do 7 days, so they bounce back and forth. And this is kind of where I thought, while I think Margaret Qualley is definitely an interesting choice, I think the opportunity was missed to actually cast Demi's daughter so that you actually had somebody who really truly resembles Demi Moore, not somebody who resembles Andie MacDowell. But I guess Andie MacDowell looks a lot more like Demi Moore than we ever gave her credit for. Margaret Qualley is one of those actresses who kind of came up after I lost my vision, so I'm not 100% sure what she looks like, but I do know whose daughter she is. And the fact that Demi Moore does have daughters who act, I'm kind of like, would that actress have the same level of buzz? I don't know, but considering what Coralie does in terms of direction and the performances she's gotten out of everybody else, I don't know that she wouldn't have been able to get that same level of performance out of Demi's daughter. So one of them, just a couple, Rumor obviously would have been the obvious choice because she's the one who's done the most acting. But that could have been a really interesting exploration, would be to see the younger version. But we get Margaret Qualley instead. So she is, sort of spoiler alert, but I have to explain how Margaret Qualley is in this movie. She comes out of Demi's back. Like, literally, Demi spawns another person out of the back of her, and then Margaret has to sew up Demi, and while Margaret is alive, she becomes... Demi's character is named Elizabeth Sparkles, which is a brilliant name for a movie star. Elizabeth Sparkle, I don't think there is actually, and that's at the end of the name. And then, so obviously she can't take the same name, Margaret, so she has a different name for herself. And she goes out and she's living her best life, and everybody's just thinks she's super hot. I mean, she's just like the bee's knees. Men are drooling all over her. She seems radiant almost. There's a scene after she takes one of the shots to kind of like keep her going, where the guy's like, "Oh my God, did you just get like more beautiful?" Like, and I'm like, maybe she did. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe there's actually something to the shots. Maybe there's some sort of like pheromone system, like to people, that there's like some sort of byproduct of this whole thing, where you're almost guaranteed that everybody will be attracted to you, because her rise to fame is like lightning fast. I mean, in the amount of time that she's given in this movie, she goes from like, "Who are you?" to like, "Oh my God, you got this TV show, you got all this shit going on." I don't even think a year's passed. I mean, she becomes like a household name in like record time, which is sort of, it puts that juxtaposition so that when we see Demi come back, she's jealous because she doesn't actually get to experience that, even though they're told, "Remember, you're one," because they keep calling the substance line every time the substance has like a hotline. Every time something goes wrong, they keep calling it. They're like, "I don't know, man, help me." You remember, you are one. There is no she, there is only you. You are. It's very sort of, but they can't help but experience things differently, because every time Demi comes out, she has like memories of things that happened, sometimes nightmarish memories, and but she also watches sort of the things that are left behind. Like at the beginning of the film, we see that she's got her face plastered all over billboards, and then later on, Margaret Qualley's face is all over billboards. I think Meg or something like that is her name. And she watches, you know, the younger one do video, the workout video routine that she was doing, and do interviews, and um, it's sort of slowly it drives her down a darker and darker path, and the problem about is never really solved for her. She never really feels any better. It doesn't actually make her feel any better. And meanwhile, on the other end, Margaret Qualley is like, listen, I don't want to go back. I'm tired of spending 7 days in a coma while you sit about the apartment because you're so depressed that you don't want to go anywhere. So, really, the juxtaposition here is quite tremendous, and that's what the strength of the screenplay is, because again, there's almost no dialogue. um, there's some, but it's not even. Sometimes it's not even dialogue. Sometimes it's just somebody talking, and like nobody's answering. Like there's a neighbor who kind of comes over and he shouts through the door sometimes, like try to get, because he saw Quali at some point and he's trying to get her to go out on a date, and he's acting like, oh yeah, a lot of sort of like one-sided conversations that either Demi or Margaret just don't respond to. But yeah, it's kind of a phenomenal direction. Demi's excellent in this. I don't necessarily need Margaret as much because I feel like she's sort of a byproduct of the film. The film needs her, but I'm not 100% sure the film answers the question of why Margaret Qualley. Like, I brought up the fact that Rumor could have, I think, done this role and been fine. The movie isn't necessarily about her. All you just needed was somebody who was younger and hot to play that role, because the movie isn't going into the depth of being, you know, the troubles of being young and hot, and like the, you know, what comes along with that. Um, there's a little bit of, but anything that she goes through is almost like a byproduct of the substance and her wanting to spend more time out in the world. It's not really, I mean, you could say that there are scenes where, you know, she looks at her body. Well, she's looking at her body because of shit that the substance did. Like, there's some really weird, disturbing sequences where she's got like this bump, and she's like, "What is this bump?" And well, I'll always assume the worst. In this film, it's just uh, the gore on this is just like next level. If the Oscars nominate this for Best Picture, God love them. You know, I've never seen a film that has more push, a horror film, and I've been sort of bullish in my predictions about the chances because they don't go for genre films. But Film Twitter, and so far, any critics groups that have had the opportunity to nominate any precursor awards have gone for this. And if they continue to go for this, if they continue to push it forward, they need to push it forward. It cannot just show up for Demi. That cannot just be the package. Um, like, this needs to be all over the globes. You almost need Margaret Qualley to come along with it, because it has to be so powerful heading into the Oscars that the question becomes, how could you not? So that at least bare minimum Demi gets in. Because it has to feel like the kind of film that people who would normally never watch this still watch it. I was not stoked. I don't love gore, but I'm blind, and it's a lot easier to listen to things than it is to actually watch them. There were some things in here that I heard what was happening. I was like, I would not be watching. Luckily, it's not scary though. Like, that's one of the things, is that it's gore, but it's not your kind of, it's not the other kind of gore. Like, some people are talking about Nosferatu this year. Well, Robert Eggers is pretty much pushing that in the genre. This is just gore that's being used as a byproduct of talking about beauty, and in a film that talks about aging out of Hollywood, and a lot of stuff that's going to resonate with a lot of people if they give it a chance. Which is one of the reasons why I'm like, I don't know that Margaret Qualley necessarily resonates with the voting body the same way that Demi does. I think that's the package. I think it's possible for the film to get Best Picture. It's not going to win. If it got the nomination, that would be That would be astounding. Um, it's like, it so does not feel like the typical Best Picture nominee. So it would be very much in the 10th place spot, and people would lose their minds. But director Corley absolutely deserves credit. I'm warming up to the idea of screenplay because I like how she's crafted the story, even though there's, again, zero dialogue. I would not be surprised if Dennis Quaid got a surprise nomination in supporting actor. Would not surprise me at all. I watch his performance and I see what Corley's doing with it, and I'm like, I think there's a lot of people who would use this because they're not going to touch The Apprentice, but they can touch this. They can go after this. They can point at this and be like, see, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, huh? You see what Dennis Quaid did there? So, uh, I'm much higher on this film than I thought it was going to be. I don't really have a negative, except I just don't like gore. And the film, listen, I don't think Corley made this film thinking this film was going to be a Best Picture nominee. I don't think she made that. So to her credit, she made a very entertaining movie. Very entertaining, gory movie that actually has a heart and soul behind it. And it's that heart and soul. It's her direction that people are picking up on. It's the fact that she has crafted this film. She did not craft Oscar bait. I think if we're being really honest, and she sat down and we talked to her, and we were like, can you believe the Oscar conversation that you're having? I mean, be honest, like for real, girl. Give me, like, be honest. When you were done, and you had the final cut of this movie, did you think Best Picture in your head? Did you think of the Oscars? And I think she'd be like, no, I wasn't. I was just trying to make a great movie. And I was really impressed with maybe Demi's performance, and was hoping maybe she would get some recognition for it. Or, yeah, I mean, but I don't think she didn't direct this to be an Oscar baity movie. It's the reception to it, which is what really speaks to her ability to craft a film, to be able to craft a film that works. Even when you throw all of this nasty shit into it, nobody really actually wants to see. And the ending of the film is nuts. The ending of the film is like way over the top. The ending of the film is what lets me know she wasn't trying to get the Oscar. She made this film to say something and to entertain, and she did that. And the audiences worldwide have responded to a Mubi film. This has to be their highest grossing film of all time. Like. And it might actually land in the race. I'm open to this. If this film doesn't get makeup, at bare minimum, if this film doesn't get makeup, cancel the Oscars. Cancel the Oscars. Like, this film is so contingent upon makeup that even if they shun this film, they have to nominate it for makeup. Like, that's not up for discussion. Like, we should protest the Oscars. It's so clearly obvious that this film is like a lock. It has to be a lock for makeup. I can't imagine somebody making a case for 5 nominees that are not the substance that deserve to be in this race. So, especially considering one of the film's strongest sequences is about literal makeup. It's about her literally applying makeup during the movie and then applying too much and then having, you know what I'm saying? Like, I cannot see this film not getting a makeup nomination. So, I know you're gonna be like, and hairstyling, and like, oh, I mean, she has hair, and it doesn't all stay there. So, I mean, there is some hairstyling to be said. It's just so. I don't want to spoil too much because I think the film goes off the walls. Just nuts if you haven't seen this yet. But if you don't like gore, God, I would watch this anyway. Unless you're just, it's a lot of gore. It's one of the goriest movies I've ever seen. To be totally honest, it is absolutely. Certainly if I could see, I think that would be validated, because there were some things that were described where I was like, I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. I've never seen that happen before. That's never happened before. A couple things that I've seen maybe like once or twice where I'm like, oh, well, we've done that before, or a version of that. But audio description is just phenomenal. I kudos. I know the Darkroom Boys are hoping, because they did a Best Picture lineup, and they're really hoping to get the team behind the Substance. They're hoping that that it gets in the Best Picture race so that they can include them in their roundtable. So man, so do I. Like I'm really pulling for that as well, because damn, I like. I really want to talk to the writers of the Substance audio description and just be like, thank you. Like, and it's not just the gore. It really isn't. It's, you have to, these ladies don't speak. You have to capture their like emotional weight in every frame. You know, I mean, it's the little things, it's the specificity. This gore is weird. It's not just the goriness of things. It's like the byproduct of it too. There's some things in here that are just gross that aren't even gore. Harvey cannot eat food like a normal human being to save his life. And it is so well described. Um yeah, I did not think I was gonna do this, but I'm here. So one of the goriest films, one of the films that I was very resistant to. I've crossed over. I'm joining the dark side. I'm giving The Substance an A. Um, I think it's brilliant, to be totally honest, and it's repulsive at the same time. Absolutely. Like, I fully understand that, and there will be times where people show up and they have to close their eyes, and you will have your eyes closed, if you're one of those people, for a long time. Like, bring a friend who likes gore and can tell you when there isn't. You might actually have your eyes closed for like the last, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes of the film. But yeah, but there's so much here. There's so much substance in the Substance that I had to give her props. And Coralie is, she's in contention for my favorite director of the year, because when I think about like when I vote for best director, I always think about like what film is a clear byproduct of the vision of the director that could not have existed. No other director could have made that film. And I think The Substance, especially now that I remember what her previous film was, very much is that. And I think she deserves to win best director. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.